Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Blogger Genius Podcast and Happy New Year. Happy 2022. If there is one thing I learned in 2021, it was seize the day because you never know what is going to happen. Therefore, for 2022, what I want to lean into in the podcast and all the products that we build is helping you monetize. It's no longer something to put on the back burner. I say we all lean into it. I have put together an email challenge for 5 days. You will get 5 emails from me on how to set up a paid workshop. I'm giving you what I call tiny tasks, little things to do every day. And by the end of 5 days, you will know what you're going to teach, let's say for an hour to your community. You will have a sales page and you can go out there and test it and monetize and learn directly from your people. I'm really excited. If you want to join the challenge, head to milotree.com/challenge. That's it. And I'm excited to have you in the community. There is a private Facebook group. All I want for you is to get paid for what you know. Again, milotree.com/challenge. So let's start off 2022 putting out monetization as our intention. I'm excited for today's episode. I think this is a perfect episode to start the new year. My guest is Susan Meier, and she is a branding expert. And what we talk about is how to look at your brand from your customer's point of view. Also, how to think about what your audience or your customer's innermost desire is. I think this is fascinating. I think you're going to like it. So without further delay, here is my interview with Susan Meier. Susan, welcome to the show. It's great having you.
Thank you so much, Jillian. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So you are a branding expert. How did you become one? Can you share your entrepreneurial journey?
Sure, absolutely. So I started my career as a management consultant, so focusing on strategy. And when I was at the Boston Consulting Group, I very quickly was drawn to their consumer goods practice and got really interested in the work that we were doing there with talking to consumers, understanding, doing focus groups, understanding what drove them to connect with brands. I don't think I was aware that there was an industry or a discipline around branding at that time. But I got really energized by this idea that people had these kind of really personal, intimate relationships with the brands that they were purchasing. And so when I left BCG, I had the opportunity to go work for a couple of boutique branding agencies. I decided to go in that direction. And I fell in love with it. I worked for many years in that kind of agency world, working with consumer brands, all the household, mostly food, some personal care brands that you've heard of. Big clients were Pepsi and Unilever, Mars, all the candy. My kids, when they were little, thought I worked in a chocolate factory because I would bring home so much candy. And then 11 years ago, I had little children. And I found the agency lifestyle to be a little challenging. And I also wanted a little more freedom to kind of choose the portfolio of work that I was going to be doing. So I launched my own business. I wasn't sure if that was really just going to look like doing some freelance work for a couple of years and then doing something else. But it turned out I really, really loved being an entrepreneur. I'm very wired for it in lots of different dimensions. And so here I am running that business, Susan Meier Studio today. Through a series of coincidences, a lot of healthcare work, particularly healthcare technology work came my way. And I find that really energizing. It feels very kind of purpose-driven, helping people take control of their health, helping them get educated about their healthcare needs. And so that's where I focus today. And in the last couple of years, I have developed another part of the portfolio that helps small business owners and individuals who are thinking about personal branding with their journey, because the same tools that I learned and later developed to work with corporate brands are exactly applicable when you're thinking about your small business. And it started out that, friends and friends of friends would come to me and say, hey, could you just help me on a one-off? And I thought there's a real need here. And so that's also been really fun, because it's much more personal and intimate when you're helping, a one-person shop, an individual build their brand from scratch. And I really get a lot of energy out of doing that as well.
Now, when you think about branding, so my audience is a lot of small business owners. What do you think the big mistakes are that people make when it comes to branding and launching their businesses?
I think one big one that's a really easy mistake to make is to focus on your product or service and your journey as you're communicating what you do, and forget to stop and take a beat and figure out what your audience, what your target customer is all about, right? You have in your mind who you think they are and what you think they need. Or maybe, and this is actually a really common mistake, you go in thinking, well, I'm for everyone. Everyone needs this product, or everyone will want this, or thinking I should be for everyone because that's the secret to success, to grow big. And quite the opposite, especially nowadays, the secret to success is often a niche strategy. So really figuring out the small, sometimes you hear the word, smallest viable audience, but figuring out the very specific target for whatever it is that you're offering, and then really getting to know who they are, so that when you're messaging to them, whether that's on social media or you're doing an ad campaign or a promotion, the way you're speaking to them and ultimately the goods or services you're offering to them are actually relevant to them.
It's funny. My husband and I started online in 2009. And I've mentioned this multiple times on the podcast. It felt like, first of all, we had a big blog, and it felt really very much like a magazine, and we're out there for everybody. And, we built this big site called Catch My Party. We turned it into the largest party idea site on the web. And it was and I remember wanting to hide behind our branding to be like, we're a big company. And it's really just David and me kind of in the background, scrappy, doing whatever. And I feel like as the internet's gotten so big, it's now about being small and being personal and being one-on-one and interacting with your customers that way, being the one who answers the emails.
Yes. And so you just hit on another big one, a big, you can say common mistake, but if you turn it around, key to success, telling your genuine, honest story. So it's perfectly natural. We've all done, I myself, you kind of go in there and you think, oh my gosh, I'm just this one person, or I'm just this small company. And you think, okay, well, I have to look credible and, make it seem like we're a big company, a big organization. But actually, as you just said, what people are much more interested in knowing is I'm a mom from, California, and I started this because, I was struggling to figure out what to do for my kid's birthday party. They want to hear that story. They're going to connect with you in that story. And most importantly, when you're telling that story, it's honest, right? It's genuine to who you are, and that comes through.
So how important then in my branding, I'm going to throw out a bunch of different things. My origin story, my colors, my logo, photos of me, videos, tell me how you think about it, because today there's so much that goes into it.
Yes. So a couple of things. One is consistency. So thinking about both having all of those a lot of those things you talked about are what I would call visual elements of the brand. And so sitting down, and I sometimes encourage people to, either take a notebook or make a big collage on the wall and put all of the visual elements that are core to your brand there, so you can see them all together. And do they make sense? Like, what's your photography style? Are you using all different styles of photography at different times? So having a consistent sort of visual style, I think, is really important. I also think that, that all of those touch points need to sort of tell the same story or the same set of stories. So I'll often encourage people to, and this is especially important because we do so much of our communication on social media, what are your key messages? And there should be less than 3, right?
Less,
like more than
wait,
too much.
Less than 3.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Oh. I mean, I'm talking topic areas. Obviously, you're communicating all the time, but if you can have the discipline to, everything that I'm going to talk about ladders up to these 3 big themes. These are my brand pillars. These are my topic areas. This is what I'm all about. You can't be about everything. It gets confusing. So I think there's the kind of visual creative, and then there's the conceptual intellectual, and, narrowing it down, saying no to some stuff, even though it might be fun and appealing and you like it, having it be really clear and really consistent.
Can you over communicate that? I feel like sometimes the bloggers and entrepreneurs we work with go, but if I'm just continually hitting these same things, these same themes, are people going to get bored of me? And I have my own thoughts about that, but tell me what you think.
I think no. I think it's all in the execution, of course. I think what people get bored of is being promoted to all the time. Mm-hmm. So if your theme is, I want to sell you stuff, yeah, people are going to get bored of hearing that. But if your theme is coming from a genuine place, like, I don't know, I'm a mom that makes organic applesauce, and my theme is about the importance of like local ingredients and farm to table. I don't think people are going to get bored of that, at least not your target audience. The people who are going to get bored of that are not your target audience. Mm-hmm. And you need to be creative in coming up with different takes on it. You don't have to create all that content yourself. You can and should be pulling from, what's being said by other people out there. Oh, here's a great resource. Oh, here's something that just happened in the news. So I don't think that gets boring. I think that reinforces your brand. I struggle with this a lot. I really do, because I get bored of hearing the same stuff over again. And I want to say a lot of different new things. But you got to remember, people are not reading your every last post. They're reading if they're a super fan, they're reading your every 10th post, right? So you have to know, like, the average person in your audience is reading your every 100th post. So they're probably not getting bored.
I love that. I agree completely. And I say this all the time, exactly that, which is, I say, get bored of your own messaging, because that means you're hitting it over and over again, because nobody is consuming all your content. Nobody's focused on you. And so you need to figure out ways to cut through the noise. And by focusing on certain messaging, you start to kind of figure out, like, oh, I'm putting out 20 posts, let's say, on organic applesauce. And maybe somehow when I'm smushing the apples, people, I don't know, they're hearting my post on Instagram. They like that. So you go, oh, of all these 20 posts, something about smushing the apples is really resonating. I could turn that into a video. I could turn that into a TikTok. This is like, you learn. And so get bored of yourself, but be looking at where the interaction is coming from. Like, and as women, my audience is predominantly women. And I always say this, like, we are so nice. So there's always this kind of feeling of like, I don't want to be salesy. Like, let's say I sell organic applesauce. Like, hey, I know you could go to the grocery store and buy applesauce, so I'm not putting any pressure on you. I know my applesauce is the best, but like, hey, I'm going to give you lots of like cool stuff, but like, you don't have to buy it. Like you should, maybe you could give it as a gift. There's always this kind of doubt instead of going, my applesauce will change your life. It changed my life. It will change your family's life. This is like the best gift to give because I believe that.
I think what people really connect to is passion. I know somebody can be talking to me about some topic that I know nothing about and care very little about. And if they're super energized about it, I just find that delightful. Like, I just want to be around them and I want to be listening to them. And I think, if you're an entrepreneur and you're doing, we all know it's a lot of work to do the same thing day in and day out and build that thing for years and years. You're probably pretty passionate about it. And so people want to see that passion and connect with that passion. And I think if you can reframe that, because I share that, what you just said, I hate feeling like I'm self-promoting, but if I can reframe that as like, I'm just going to share with you something that I'm really excited about, then I'm not promoting anything.
For me, if I can reframe it as helping, that is the game changer for me. I'm much more of an introvert. However, if the way that I can get up on stage and talk to hundreds of people is if I can put the hat on of a helper, it's like, oh my God, I'm in need. Like somebody needs me because I can make your life better. And that to me is magic.
Definitely. And if you can't get there, if you're not feeling that way about whatever it is that you're offering, it might be time to take a look at like, could you evolve your offering a little? Like you don't want to feel, if you don't feel that what you're doing is genuinely helpful and you're genuinely passionate about it, that also comes across, and it's also not going to be fun for you. And there's probably a way to tweak it so you get there. So that's another way to think about innovation in your business. Like always looking back and seeing, is what I'm doing, and it changes over time, right? But like, is what I'm doing today something that I feel really good about, that I'm passionate about, that I believe helps people, that I want to shout from the rooftops?
Absolutely. So that's like always my, it's like connecting the dots though, because it's very easy to be like, I'm the applesauce girl, right? I do, but not to connect to, and I sell applesauce. Like, I think sometimes we miss that piece where that's where you make your money.
So true.
Like we want to give lots of good applesauce advice, but at the end of the day, this is my business and I want you to buy my applesauce. I don't subscribe to many kind of business emails, right? So that like I've just recently was thinking about this because I subscribe to Athleta emails, right? It's like exercise closing. And I think it's because if I'm not exercising, I look at the photos and then I kind of weirdly feel like I'm exercising, like I'm living the healthy life. And I think about how many of them I open. And I have to be honest, I open a lot of them. I don't buy a lot, but they get me. And then when they get me, I always look at like, what is it that made me click and open this email? So it's triggering some sort of emotion for me. So it's just interesting to see your own psychology and to watch yourself and what you respond to.
So you said the word emotion, and before you even said it, I was going to say, you're saying something that is really important that I think is really important and that I convey a lot, which is that aspect of making your audience feel something, right? It's not just, I need new yoga pants because my old ones are pilled, or like my old ones are out of style. It's how do I feel when I think about buying new yoga pants, and then when I'm wearing the new yoga pants, and laddering that up to like, what is the aspiration? That's what the emotion is that you're talking about. I aspire to be, I don't know what it is, healthy, or, my body looks great, or I feel younger, or whatever that aspiration is, or I'm a better mom because I'm active or whatever. figuring out what your product ladders up to in somebody's life.
What do you mean by that? Will you explain what you mean by laddering up and how to elicit that emotion?
So the easy example I often use is I did a lot of work in cereal. And the easy example is, you're selling, a cereal that, well, often the game is a cereal the kids love that's also healthy. So, but I'm selling you a cereal and I could tell you all about the ingredients that are in it and the shapes that it comes in that are fun and the price point that it's offered at. But really what I need to be tapping into is that you're buying this cereal. You may say that you're buying this cereal because it's healthy and my kids love it. But the laddering up is I'm doing those things because I want to feel like a good mom, right? That's a much higher aspiration than I want to feed my kids healthy, fun cereal.
Totally.
Right? So that's just like a super easy example, but every single product has that.
I wanted to take a short break to share that one of my words for 2022 is monetization. And one of the easiest ways to monetize is to come up with products and services to sell to your audience. And that's why we built MiloTree Easy Payments. It is a lean, no-tech platform where you can easily set up products, set up memberships, set up paid workshops, sell coaching, sell services, and there's no tech to learn. We integrate with all major email service providers, and there's no monthly fee. In fact, we only charge a small transaction fee. This means we only make money when you do. Plus, we offer free hosted sales pages. Before you build something out, set up a sales page, put it in front of your audience, and see if they're interested. It's totally free to do this. So head to milotree.com/easy payments, milotree.com/easy payments to set up your free account so you can have a whole new way to monetize in 2022. And now back to the show. Okay, so we have this site Catch My Party, and why do people throw first birthdays? Your kid doesn't remember the first birthday. Like my husband used to joke that we weren't going to throw a first birthday and all we were going to do was Photoshop my daughter into other people's photos so that she had this memory of her first birthday. But it's that idea, like I think it is for a couple reasons. One, it's to kind of congratulate you and your husband or whomever for getting through that first hard year. But two, it's also kind of doing this celebration of going, not only did I get through it, I did an awesome job because look at this party that I just threw for my 1-year-old. Like I'm a little awesome.
Yeah, these aspirations aren't all necessarily elevated, right? Like maybe we care about status. Maybe we care about cosmetically looking good. Like, and we know that that's not the secret to peace in the universe, but we care about those things. An example in a business to business world is I do a lot of work in healthcare marketing, and those folks that are being marketed to are brand managers in large healthcare organizations, and they're middle managers, right, who are in charge of important brands and they have important jobs, but they're not actually scientists. And the scientists in their organization are the innovators. And it's really interesting when you talk to them, their aspiration is to be seen as innovative, to be seen as cutting edge and leading edge. And I think that's also a really interesting example of like, you wouldn't necessarily know that until you talk to them. I would not have guessed that until I talked to them. But then when I talk to them, it makes perfect sense. They're in this organization that's all about leading edge scientific research, and they're a business manager. And so they want to be part of that excitement, right? They want to be treated like innovators too. And so I think, this goes way beyond.
So how do you sell to those people? Like, how do you sell your services then? Like, how do you tap into that need within them? Because, they could hire you. What do you do to make them go,
Sure.
hey, I see you as an innovator?
Yeah, you articulate now then it comes down to the messaging and choosing your words carefully and crafting your positioning. And so your brand positioning, the core of your brand positioning is explaining to your customer what the benefit is that they're going to get out of working with you. And so you're going to tell them all the nuts and bolts of what they're going to get out of it. But in this case, for example, it was important that we talk about our product helping them be on the leading edge of healthcare marketing.
Mm.
And we didn't have to talk about it that way. There were other benefits we could talk about. But once we interviewed them and we understood who they were, we knew that that had to be part of the story.
That's so interesting. We're launching a product called Milo Tree Easy Payments. And it is for bloggers, creators to sell things like memberships, workshops, coaching, and get paid for it. And one pain point I see over and over again is that I coach creators and people who are putting their content out there, and they're putting it out there for free. And so my messaging is all about you deserve to be paid. You are valuable. You are a business. Businesses get paid for what they do. This product will therefore hopefully make you feel like a legitimate business. You're not just a cute food blogger who makes applesauce. You sell applesauce, but not only that, you sell a workshop where you teach people how to make applesauce. And at the end of it, my whole thing is, and you get paid from people who value you. So there are all these like emotions that I'm trying to hit, and genuine. This is genuine. This is what I want people to feel. I want them to feel empowered. I want them to feel like business people. I want them to feel like this is worth it and people value them.
This is a great example, right? Because the practical need, which you also address and fulfill, is you want to get paid. You want this to be a viable business. And the aspiration, the emotional need, is that you want to feel valued and respected, right? And I think having both of those as part of the story is absolutely necessary. And differentiating.
I love that. So people who are listening, as you're thinking about your business, think about what are the benefits?
My favorite features versus benefits story. And by the way, this is definitely one of my key messages because I feel really strongly about it. I think it's really important. One of my favorite features versus benefits stories was there was a manufacturer of light bulbs that I was working for. Very large company that had a legitimately breakthrough technology. LED light. This is a few years back when LED was relatively new. And so they said, I was actually working for a packaging design firm at the time. So they said, can you design our packaging for us and write the back of pack copy? And here's all the, the lumens and the degrees Kelvin. We had a big kickoff meeting with all the engineers and also the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer. Anyway, and so we said, oh, well, that's great. And we'll be sure to put the lumens and the degrees Kelvin and the hours of life and everything on the package.
I just have to stop and tell you, my husband would be all over that, but just so you know.
I mean, it's not unimportant, but we said, can we go out and talk to your customers or your target customers and understand what they care about when they buy a light bulb? So, I mean, it was a large company and we had a big budget. So it was actually very cool. We went all over the world and we went into people's homes as well as into focus groups. And we asked people about their light bulb purchases. And it may not surprise you to find that a light bulb purchase is not a particularly high involvement emotional purchase. People need a light bulb, they go to the hardware store and they buy a light bulb. So when you ask them about the light bulbs, the conversation is short. When you ask them to tell you about or take you around their house and show you the role of light, show us where your light bulbs are. Tell me about the lighting in this room. How did you choose that light fixture? How do you choose what light bulbs go in there? And talk to people in Sweden about the importance of their lighting fixtures. Wow. Right? Like light plays a huge role. Talk to people in China about the importance of their light. By the way, it's very different. They want a cold tone light and they want it very bright because in that culture, that represents cleanliness, transparency, honesty. I mean, the role of light is tremendously interesting. But at the end of that project, we came back and said, you're not selling light bulbs, you're selling light. And what you're selling in light is, and our ultimate kind of brand positioning was quality of light equals quality of life. And that was a really profound laddering up, right? Like that was, you now, instead of selling a inexpensive hardware store product for, by the way, much more expensive price point than people are used to, so it's a little bit of a tough sell, you're now selling something that is deeply intimate to people's quality of life.
I have to say it, illuminating.
It's illuminating. Yes. That's an illuminating story.
So, but tell me then, okay, but then how did you on the packaging convey life, light as life?
Yeah. So we talked about the role of light in your home. We mentioned how many hours this light bulb would last, right? And how bright it was or how customizable it was in terms of its warmth. But we had a whole story. And by the way, the visuals supported that story. It was kind of the beautiful, warm home lit from within. It wasn't like a beauty shot of the light bulb. It's like a different, it was really about the world that the light was creating.
I love that. I can see that. Like at first I'm like, how did you translate it? But all you need to do is show that. I like really warm light. So show the warmth and I'm like all over it. So yes. Okay. Yeah, so think in terms, again, I think this is so powerful. Yes, you've got benefit. Yes, you've got features, and my husband would be all over those things. But like, the truth is it's really, it feels almost like, to be thinking kind of aspirationally, like what do you like selling somebody the vision of their life that they want, whether it be, I want to be high status. Why do women walk around with fancy pocketbooks when they, fancy, like a leather pocketbook that has a name on it? Again, this is no judgment for that. But like you could have that same pocketbook in leather without the name and probably for 1/10 the price. So what does that, that lettering have? What does it provide? Well, it provides status and feeling good about yourself, and it's pretty and all that stuff. So it's, but I feel like almost like this, we're almost not even aware that we are triggered, both positively and negatively. And if you can figure out people's triggers, how can you do that for your, customer and sell to them? Because chances are you don't want to compete on price.
You do not ever want to compete on price. Not that how you price isn't important, but that is never what you should be competing on, because that's a race to the bottom. But I think that, I guarantee you that Athleta has done a lot of consumer research. All these brands have done a lot of consumer research. And I think that for a small business owner or someone just starting out, that can be intimidating because you think like, we don't have the budget to do focus groups. You don't have to do focus groups. You can do informal, inexpensive research by talking to friends, talking to customers, doing a quick survey monkey. I do recommend doing something that's not just online and quantitative, like having the human conversation is very important. You're going to get a lot out of that. But you can do it back of the envelope, grassroots, and learn an awful lot by asking. People love to talk about themselves. Just ask them about their lives.
Absolutely.
It's not a big ask.
I say this all the time. Do stuff that doesn't scale when you are starting out. And one of them is, and people freak out, they're weirded out about this, at least in my experience, because I will do this and I'll say, let's say somebody emails me or has a question or whatever, or when we were doing my Low Tree Easy Payments, it was a little different because I ended up getting on the phone, getting on Zoom, so easy. And I would talk to people about their businesses, that what memberships they wanted to create, why they wanted to create them. And then I would also put our product in front of them and say, okay, go figure this out and let me watch you. I want to see what you click on. And I want you to tell me like what bumps you or how you're thinking about this, or what are your pain points. So one thing that I discovered is we say this at our house all the time. And David, my husband, is like the best technologist in the world. Like he can solve everything. But we say this mantra, we have it even on our like whiteboard that says technology is hard. Like how many times are you sending yourself password resets and then like it doesn't work, and then you spend all this time. And so when we set out to create our product, we said we are going to make it the easiest technological solution possible, because I realized that technology for me, and then I noticed this when I was interviewing other people, it makes people feel bad. I'm like, a pretty smart person. And I will tell you that when I've sent myself the 5th password reset and it's still not working, I feel so bad about myself. Like I can't even get my password to work.
Yeah, so nobody wants to feel like that.
So that's why the other messaging we have is like the easiest technological solution so that you can feel good about yourself.
I love that you put in the so that. I mean, that's the whole game. You connected, the easiest technological solution is already a great positioning, but you've got the so that, you've said it out loud, you've articulated so that you can feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Then I go, oh, yeah, that would feel great.
Right.
It would feel great not to feel like a dummy.
I feel like but I want to say like it happens to me 5 times a day. So it was so interesting because when I was walking through people, walking people through this, and there were certain steps, like they had to get into their email service provider. And I can't tell you like how many roadblocks they would run into. And they would be like apologetic, like, oh, I know, oh, I can't do bigger. Oh, and I thought I could feel that anxiety and that pain. And all they want to do is go make pretty things. Like the end of the day, you're a food blogger. You just want to make delicious, pretty food. Like you don't want to be dealing with having to send yourself the password reset to get into your email service provider. So it was like, oh, and I could listen and I could hear where the struggles were. And I thought, and that's why we said we're setting out to make this as easy as possible.
So you went along on your customer's journey. And I think that is, in addition to asking them about their lives, another really key piece of understanding your audience. Figure out what their journey looks like.
What do you mean by that? Explain.
Hypothesize, like from the moment they are looking around for a solution like yours, whatever that may be, to they become aware of you, to they engage with you, to they purchase you, to they use your product, or they come back and repeat for the whole lifetime journey of them connecting with you. What does that look like? And in your case, you did, so like with an easy, probably like a cereal, you would do like a shop along, right? And then you would do an ethnography where you go and sit and have breakfast with the family. You did, the technology version of that, right? Where you watch somebody use the technology and you identified kind of the points of delight and the points of pain. And whatever your product is, there's a journey that your customer goes on, and you should go on it with them. You should map it out. So like, here's what I think the journey looks like. And then have a couple people take you on their journey. And you'll learn something. Their journey is probably a little different than you thought it was. And you'll get to see, like you said, where are the pain points? Where can we make it easier? Where can we make it better?
What I love about what you're saying is that we have a hypothesis, but you have to hold it lightly, because you have to recognize you're not your customer. And there will be differences. You also know whatever you're doing very intimately, and they don't. So where do they need to be educated, or where are they stumbling, or what doesn't work for them? Or you think it's so easy, and it's like, so you have to kind of talk about empathy. You have to get out of yourself to really get into somebody else who it's a little bit like, you can give great advice to somebody else, but it's like really hard to see yourself. It's like you're so close to whatever you're doing. You need to get that distance so that you can then see it from different eyes.
Absolutely. I use the word empathy all the time when I talk about understanding your customer. It's not just, demographics or running numbers about who your customers are. It's really putting yourself in their shoes.
And getting out of your shoes.
Getting out of your shoes, because like you just said, you are not them. And that's, just for the human brain, that's just a hard thing. Like we kind of project ourselves, and we have to remind ourselves actively that the people that we're serving, who may be like-minded in many ways, are people who are not us. And let's go find out who they are.
Oh, Susan, I love this. Okay. If people want to reach out to you because they've got these they want to ask you if they're in the right direction when they're thinking about laddering up, I like that term. How can people learn about you, reach out to you, connect with you?
So all my contact information and resources are on my website, which is Susan Meier Studio. And Meyer is a little bit of a funny spelling. I'm sure you'll put it in the show notes, but it's Meier. And on the website, you'll have my email address, which pretty intuitively is Susan@Susan Meier Studio. Feel free to email me anytime. I love answering questions. I love having a little dialogue. Also on the website, you can download, I created a workbook if you want sort of an easy, inexpensive way to sort of do it yourself. And, there's 10 exercises in there that take you through all the things that we've been talking about today and help you articulate your brand promise, your positioning for your brand, taking into account who you are and who your customer is, and doing some in-depth thinking about both of those things. I also offer like a package of office hours, if you will, for folks who, and that's actually pretty popular because, we all know how DIY goes. Some people are really good at it, but most of us need a little hand-holding. So I do sort of a 5 hours of hand-holding and coaching package, which is also available on the site. And then for people who want to, really go deep, I do full day workshops. So all of that information is on the site. There's a page on the site that's for small business owners and entrepreneurs.
Well, Susan, I have to say, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Jillian. It was just a great conversation. So lovely to meet you.
You too. Wow, so much good learning in this episode. I love this idea of trying to get to the feeling behind the feeling. If you can tap into that with your customers and audience, like you've got them. For those of you wanting to create a new product in 5 days, a paid workshop, come join my email challenge and I will walk you through how easy this is to set up. And then you've got a product to sell. So to join the challenge, head to milotree.com/challenge. That's it. And I look forward to seeing you on the other side of that. Again, milotree.com/challenge. Remember, this is all about monetizing, making money directly from your community, selling what you already know. And I will see you here again next week. Happy New Year.